welcome back to my channel. I want to say really quickly thank you so much for everyone for all the support. I was not expecting it. I was really shocked actually. I reckon I got like 70 messages from people telling me how much they loved it, which was so nice, and it was really reassuring, and it's why I'm here today filming for you guys and making this video. So thank you so much once again, and thank you so much to everyone asking me questions for this video. It's going to be quite an intense one. I want to say really quickly off the bat, quick disclaimer, I'm not a professional, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a doctor. I don't study mental health, psychology, social work, anything like that. I'm just purely speaking on my experience, what I've been through, my personal opinion, and what's worked for me. I'm going to be giving a bit of a background to my story and what I've sort of been through. So I got asked that. And I also want to say, understand my privilege. I'm not just some dumb white bitch complaining, even though it's probably going to come across as that. I am extremely grateful for the privilege that I have. I understand that if I were black, if I were trans, if I were disabled, I would have it much more difficult. So I am very grateful to have the privilege that I have, and I don't want people to think that I am being ungrateful for what I have, because I'm very lucky. Yeah, I just want to talk about how I've struggled with my mental illness and just how I can help others, hopefully. Also, I'd like to put a quick trigger warning. I will be speaking about themes of sexual assault, suicide, depression, self-harm, mental illness. So if you get triggered by this, please don't continue watching, or please flick through. I don't want to trigger anyone or make anyone feel uncomfortable, so please don't watch if you are triggered by these things. First of all, I got a few questions that I felt like I could answer all together. So I got a lot of questions about, talk to us about your mental health throughout your life, how when you realised you were struggling, when did you know it was time to seek help, do you take medication for your mental illness? Talk about that really quickly. It's going to be really hard to condense all of my teenage years of suffering from mental illness into like a couple minutes, but I'm going to try really hard. So I hope that you guys get to know me a little better, but at the same time I don't want to expose myself too much. But yeah, okay. So year 7 I started feeling really shit. I started on the pill, and prior to that I was a really happy kid, didn't really have any issues, loved school, was super social. So year 7 I started on the birth control pill for my periods. I had really irregular periods that were really shit, and they were just really heavy, and they lasted a long ass time, so it was really shit. So I started on the pill, and that was when things went downhill. Year 8 I self-harmed for the first time. My cutting addiction began. My mum saw it and were like, okay, this is time to seek help. So we went together. That was when I started seeing a counsellor and was diagnosed with depression and anxiety disorder. I was 13 at the time, and then I decided I wanted to go on antidepressants because I wanted a quick fix, and also I thought that it was really cool to be on antidepressants because I was watching a lot of really depressing TV shows. I was on Tumblr a lot, I was listening to a lot of Lana Del Rey. It was just not a good time. So year 8 I was really struggling. I was on birth control and on this antidepressant that was making me really foggy, and it was just really, a really bad mix. Year 9 that sort of kept continuing. Year 10 was when I had my first experience with sexual assault. Was really drunk at a party. I was 15. There was an 18-year-old sober male there, and he basically just kind of took advantage of me. He was really gross. It was awful. I later found out that he was a rapist, so that was really awesome for me. And then I went off my antidepressants in year 10 because I just felt like they made me gain a lot of weight, and I just felt really uncomfortable. I didn't really like it at all. Not that you should not take antidepressants because of weight gain. I just was feeling overall that I just didn't think they were helping me. So I went off them, and then when I turned 16 at the end of year 10, that was when things really started to get quite bad. I will take 1 or 2 people pretty much sexually assaulted by every male I had a sexual experience with up until I turned 18. So I was groomed, I was sexually abused, I was raped, I was taken advantage of, I was sexually harassed. It was just really awful. That was kind of just a really bad time for me, I guess, from like 16 to 18. And then I found a really good counsellor, I think it was at the end of year 10 or start of year 11, who I still see to this day, and she is absolutely amazing. I honestly don't know if I would be here if it wasn't for her. She has helped me so immensely, and I'm so grateful for her. Year 12 got around, I realised that the pill perhaps was the reason I was feeling so depressed. My mum actually said, maybe we should go off the pill, you may be just really sensitive to hormones. And so I realised that the pill pill was actually a huge factor of my depression, and it was just making me really crazy. And I found that once going off it, this fog in my brain that just like disappeared, and I felt so much more clear in my mind, and I just felt like there was, my brain had sort of just cleared. I got the IUD Marina, which worked much better for me. And then I think it was September in year 12, I was still quite depressed throughout up to September, and I was starting to feel a lot better. I had cut myself for the last time. I was graduating high school. I was going to Bali with one of my best mates. Just a really good time. And then start of last year was when I got with my boyfriend, who I'm still with now, which was really great. I was so obsessed with him for so long, so it was so nice that we got together, and I'm so happy in that relationship now. So shout out to Will, I love you, thank you so much for being the best boyfriend ever. We were really good for a while, but I noticed that I was just really struggling a little bit in the relationship, in the sense that I had really bad trust and abandonment issues. I was expecting him to just fuck off and leave me. I had all of these like insecurities and just really bad issues that I just couldn't really handle. Will was really supportive and he was really great with everything, but I think there was a lot of underlying issues that I just didn't know about. It was only until like the end of last year where I kind of opened up to my boyfriend about everything that had happened to me, like all of the grooming and stuff, because I actually didn't know that it was grooming at the time. I had no idea that I was sexually assaulted, and he was like, Sarah, like that wasn't consensual at all, like they were taking advantage of you, that's really bad. And that was sort of like a light bulb moment where I was like, holy fuck, I had no idea. I sort of had to relive a lot of that trauma. I had to talk through a lot of issues with my therapist about that, because I honestly hadn't really thought about it. I sort of just buried it all really deep, and yeah, it was really, really awful. I really struggled last year. I started on a different medication, a different antidepressant, and that kind of made me a little bit crazy. The first like 6 months that I was on it, I was really up and down. I was super depressed. I was really suicidal. For like those years, I was deeply, deeply suicidal, like self-harming quite extremely, cutting quite extremely. Attempted suicide a couple of times, so it was just a really bad time. I ended up stopping self-harming in December after going really too far. I haven't relapsed yet or since. Hopefully not for a very long time, hopefully not ever. I have processed the trauma in the stage of healing, and I am on the wait list to see a sexual assault counsellor, so I'm feeling much better within myself. My mental health has definitely improved, especially over the past like 2 or 3 months, and I'm very lucky to have the support system that I have. I have an amazing psychologist, I have a very supportive family, I have the most supportive and wonderful boyfriend in the whole world. I have great friends, so I'm very lucky, but I definitely think that the sexual assault was a huge reason that I had so many issues. That's just the first question, so I hope that answered. Next question is, if you suffer with anxiety, what are things that help you get out of that hole? Do you have any tips for dealing with social anxiety? Tips on anxiety. I am a very anxious person. Wouldn't really think it, I don't think, because I come across as quite confident. Most people are quite surprised when I tell them that I suffer from anxiety. Anxiety is really hard. I find that what works best for me is like intense distraction. I find if I find something that like my sole focus onto, whether it's like some sort of game on my phone, like doing homework, doing uni work, and watering my plants, if it's anything that's gonna like really take my attention, like grab my attention, make me just focus on just that one thing where my brain can't think about anything else except for that particular thing, I find that really helps. I also find learning songs on guitar really helps me. Playing guitar is a really good one. I find reading's really helpful. I find Honestly, scrolling on TikTok really helpful too. I find that I can just be like, if I'm really anxious, I'll just go on TikTok and I can literally be scrolling for like half an hour and just be like, oh my god, I had no idea what I was stressing about. I find talking to someone who I really love and trust really helps if I can sort of rant to them and get that kind of like anxious sort of vomit out and just sort of speak it out, yell it out, journal it out, say it to someone, say it to a best mate, say it to any of my friendship groups, to my mum, to my boyfriend, anything like that I find really helps. So yeah, I try and do that as much as possible. I'm gonna put some links down below to some Instagram accounts that I follow that I just find are helpful too, because this is just what works for me. It might not work for you, and I understand that social anxiety is a big thing at the moment. I know personally that because I've been in isolation for so long, I find I'm really nervous to go out and socialize. So yeah, I unfortunately don't really have any tips on that for now. Yeah, that's just what's worked for me. I find hugging actually really makes me relax, especially being held by my boyfriend or my mum or like my good friends really helps me calm down. If you don't have that option, I'm really sorry. Try and like hug your dog or hug a pet. I find that that really helps as well. And another thing I find that makes like such a big cause of my anxiety is social media. When I did my poll, I asked a question saying, do you feel good after scrolling on Instagram? And majority said no. And I kind of was like, why the fuck do you have Instagram then if it makes you feel so shit? My biggest thing that I found has helped my anxiety a fuck ton is I have unfollowed or blocked or just removed anyone on my Instagram who I wasn't benefiting from, people who just weren't making me feel good, people who I just thought weren't very good people or just toxic or anything like that. I mean, to be fair, we are all toxic and we're all shit people to an extent. When you say that no one's a bad person in some regard, it's just not true. I feel like that's really important, that you make your Instagram just a nicer place for yourself. After removing all of the people who were making me uncomfortable or just people I didn't want on my Instagram, I felt like my overall experience on Instagram was much better. I even found sometimes I had to just delete the app because it was pissing me off. I find that my anxiety definitely calms down, definitely lessens when I'm not on social media so much. So I think that if you're an anxious person and you find that you're having a bad time on Instagram, please just unfollow anyone who is making you feel that way. And I think there's such a stigma against like, oh, unfollowing people, like that's so rude, like you want to be polite and stuff. Fuck that. If someone's making you feel like shit simply just by like having their Instagram like in your feed, unfollow them. Social media, it doesn't matter, like it's so stupid. You need to put yourself first and you need to put your happiness first. If you know that you're going to feel better if you unfollow someone, please do it. If you think you'll feel better if you unfollow me, please unfollow me. Like, I'm not going to take it personally. Stop choosing to be polite to other people. Choose yourself and choose putting yourself first, because 2020 is the year of making decisions for you and choosing what's best for you. I feel like I kind of already answered this, but just quickly, would you recommend a therapist, or your experience if you've ever had one? My experience with a therapist has been nothing but amazing. I have the most amazing therapist who seriously helps me so much. I feel like is so helpful to get all of my anxiety and just all of my issues out, like out of my brain, out of my mouth, out of my stomach, just out. And she makes me feel really normal. She makes me feel so much better about thinking this way. She makes me feel really human, which is just really good. I seriously couldn't recommend a therapist more. Even if you don't have a mental illness, I feel like everyone should see a therapist, just because it's so good to have someone to rant to or just ask questions and ask opinions that are completely unbiased, and it's just good. It's just good to talk to a professional, so I couldn't recommend it more. What to do when you wake up and don't want to get out of bed to do anything? How have you found staying motivated during mental illness lows? Short answer for this, I really struggle with it. I find that because of my mental illness, I unfortunately do have to write it out most of the time. When I'm having a really low day, I really just have to take care of myself. I have to do things that make me happy. It can be little things, like it can be having an extra shower, it can be watching some stupid video on YouTube, or watching a TV show that makes me happy, eating my favorite food. I really just have to take proper care of myself. Really lucky that with uni, I'm affiliated with the ELS program, which means that I'm able to get extensions because of my condition, no questions asked. If I do need extensions, or if I'm having a really low day, I am able to just request that So I think that that's what I do. I also find seeing my therapist as regularly as possible. I go from seeing her once a week to once every fortnight, and I find that that really helps. It's really difficult to answer that because everyone has different coping mechanisms, everyone has different strategies, but my biggest one is for me, I just have to ride it out, really. Treat myself with as much kindness as I can and really just look after myself as much as possible. I asked a question, well, I got messaged a question by a friend saying, can you talk about romanticizing depression and, glamorizing that kind of lifestyle? This is something that really actually fucks with me quite a lot. Obviously, having access to Google and the internet, we are able to self-diagnose so easily, not just with mental illness, but just with anything in general. I find that I do it all of the time. At the same time, if you're self-diagnosing a mental illness, you need to stop. It's really offensive to me and to people with mental illness, because depression or anxiety isn't just a personality trait. We can't just pick and choose when we have it. It's not just wearing all black and being all sad and making cute little sad TikToks. I don't want to come across as really rude, but it's something that I see every day, and it's really frustrating because if I could change one thing about myself, anything at all, it would be to not have a mental illness. It is so debilitating. It has ruined so many relationships for me. I have scars all over my body because of my mental illness. I can't do certain things all the time. At the moment, I can't actually drink at all because the alcohol makes me so depressed that I get extremely suicidal. It also is it's unsafe because you could be self-diagnosing that you have depression, but it could actually be a much more serious condition. It also undermines the role of a doctor. And I'm not saying that if you self-diagnose you don't have a disorder. You 100% could actually have depression, but it's best to get that confirmation and get that diagnosis from a doctor. Don't just say you have depression or anxiety and then just not do anything about it and then just leave it, because it's a really serious condition. You really need to get treated for it. So yeah, go get that formal diagnosis, bitch. How do you feel about young men preaching mental health, but in reality there's still stigma coming from them in large amounts, not making their friends feel safe, etc.? This is a really good question. This is a really important one. First of all, I don't want to come across as insensitive, apathetic in any way. As someone who has been suicidal for so many years, who still suffers from suicidal thoughts every day, I 100% understand and empathize with any person who is feeling this way. I understand that as a male, it's much more difficult to speak up about these issues. It's much more normalized for women to be emotional and talk about their issues. So I empathize men who feel like they can't open up. It's really important that if anyone is struggling, that they seek the help that they deserve and that they need. I find it really upsetting and frustrating when there's males, or not just males in general, but I've only had experience with males, so I can only speak on that. I'm not saying that it's only males. I know that women do this too. I'm just saying that this is my personal experience. That they use their depression or their feelings of suicide as emotional blackmail. This has happened to me a few times. This has happened to friends of mine. This is just really fucked. So, for instance, if someone messages someone saying, I'm gonna kill myself if you don't do this, because you've done this, they're gonna kill themselves. I've received messages similar to this, and let me just say, you cannot emotionally blackmail someone like that. Not only are you making people with depression look really shit, you are putting an immense amount of pressure on someone who does not deserve it. No one is responsible for your suicidal thoughts. I mean, or actually I take that back, because I do believe that intense bullying or sexual assault, if you've sexually assaulted someone and they kill themselves, you are partly responsible for that. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. Or if you're bullying someone to the stage where they commit suicide, that's on you, babe. If you are someone who is emotionally blackmailing someone or using suicide as a way to manipulate someone into doing something, that's really fucked up, and you need to not. Putting life or death onto someone else, that's really awful. You just need to stop. Also, it really frustrates me. I found that a lot of men who have done this say stuff like, A lot of abusers will come out and say, you're fucking with my mental health because you're speaking up about the fact that I raped you, or the fact that I took advantage of you, or the fact that I took advantage of your friend, or anything like that. People need to be held accountable for their actions. And I feel like it's really important to not emotionally abuse someone because they're talking about their story. If you've abused someone and then you're gonna go and emotionally blackmail them, you need to check yourself, realize that that's not okay and you can't do that. I also think that males who speak up about suicide, it's really brave and it's really important to do so, but at the same time it's really important that in speaking up about those issues that you're also making sure that you're not contributing to other people's mental illness. I know that there was a status posted by some guy, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but he posted something like, men will raise awareness for suicide prevention but then bully gay people. I feel like this is a big one. I know a lot of my gay friends have been attacked or abused because of their sexual orientation, and who speak up about suicide rates and all of that men's mental health have attacked me or abused me in some way, or just don't respect women or members of the LGBTQIA plus community. So I think it's really important that if you are preaching about mental health and men's mental health, which is really important and I applaud you for doing so, make sure that you are not contributing to any kind of toxic or abusive behavior, that you are supportive of everyone, every race, every gender. I think that's really, really important. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up now. I want to say thank you if you've gotten this far. I really, really appreciate all of the love and support. I hope that this helped in some way. It was really difficult to speak about so many issues in such a short amount of time. I really hope you guys were educated in some way. If you are feeling depressed at the moment, you're not alone. A lot of people are really struggling at the moment. It's a really difficult time. I want to make sure that you're all looking after yourself as much as you can, making sure you're surrounding yourself with positive people who are going to make you feel good about yourself, and knowing that there is help out there. They're allowing 20 free mental health appointments, so you're able to see a psychologist pretty much for free, I think it is. So please, if you are feeling unwell, please go to the doctor, please go and see a professional or confide in someone that you trust, because your mental health is so important. I know what it feels like to feel really alone and feel like there's no way out. I feel it quite a lot. Please go and confide in someone you trust, or go and speak to a professional, because your mental health is so important. We don't want any more suicides because there's already so many. Oh, God, that was such a depressing video. I'm really sorry. I tried to make it as light as possible, but it's not really. Thank you guys so much for watching again. I hope to see you guys soon. Okay, bye.